Well, welcome out there once again to my program. Always a pleasure to be here. I have a guest. Matter of fact, he's been on my show once before, I believe, or twice. He is the former police chief in Somerset, across the river. And as you know, he retired, and there's a new chief there, I guess, is going to take over soon. But in the meantime, former chief Joesph Ferreira is running for the Governor's Council. And what is the Governor's Council? It's a body that most people don't even know it exists. But we're going to find out what it's about, what it does, how do you qualify to get on the Governor's Council, some of the districts, and the various things in regards to the Governor's Council. Now, some of the qualifications of former Chief Ferreira is that, well, of course, former chief, Somerset, retired, police chief for 30 years. That's quite a length of time. He's an attorney, a practicing attorney for more than 20 years, and he's been doing some special work for the Bristol County District Attorney. Also, he was a clerk to many Supreme Court or Superior Court justices, and wrote and performed some of the research for these Superior Court justices. Joe graduated from Bryant University with the highest honors in 1984. That's quite a feat. Graduated first in his academy from the Foxborough Municipal Police Academy in 1985, and graduated second in his law class from what is now UMass Dartmouth. And he did that in 1992. So, and there's many things he's volunteered for us. But, well, Joe, I mean, you got quite an educational background. You're a pretty bright guy, too, on top of that.
Well, thank you. First of all, let me thank you for having me on your show. I have been on as the police chief before, and I certainly appreciate this opportunity because I think it's important that the people are informed and make educated decisions based on information that's applied to them during a campaign process. And you're absolutely right. 95% of the people that I run into don't know what the Governor's Council is or does. Yeah. So it's not one of those well-known positions, but it's something that I'd like to inform the public about and you know, give them an opportunity to hear.
Yeah. Now, you're running as a Democrat?
I am. On September 9th, it's their last chance to vote for the Governor's Council because it's a primary. There are 4 of us in the race, and there are no independents or Republicans running this year.
Okay. How about Cipollini?
So the Republican Cipollini did not return his papers this year. So the Democrat brother is in now. He's one of the 4 that's running again. Oh,
I see. Okay. Because I see, you know, I've seen those signs out there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so it's all Democrats.
Yes.
And come September, that's the end of it.
Right. As a matter of fact, if people want to go out this week or next week or the week after to vote, if for any reason whatsoever, you don't even need a reason. If you can't vote on September 9th, you can go to the Fall River Clerk's office or wherever city or town that you might see this in. You can go to the clerk's office and vote absentee ballot. Right now, the ballots are out. They've been out for about a week.
Well, I just want to let people out there know too that when you watch this program, you can always watch it on the internet. So it's available there. So if you know some people who would like to watch it, but they don't live in Fall River, because the Governor's Council in this district extends where? What are the?
It's huge. So I'll actually show it if that's okay. Yep. On the back of one of my cards. Not sure how well you can see that, but it's 47 communities. So it's the entire. I'll hold this straight. Yeah. It's the entire Cape and Islands, and it goes all the way through Plymouth, Pembroke, Bridgewater, Middleborough. It's 47 communities. So the way that is broken down is there are 40 senators in Massachusetts. So they divide the state by 8. So I have 5 contiguous senatorial districts. The Plymouth, the Taunton, the Cape, New Bedford, and the Fall River Senator. I have all of their districts, which makes 47 communities. And the Governor's Council goes back to the Constitution, when the Constitution was written. It was also called, at that time, the Executive Council. And it was more powerful back then. As a matter of fact, when the governor and lieutenant governor were not in the state, the president of the governor's council was the acting governor.
Wow, that's some power, huh?
Yeah, that was some power. They've taken some of that away. Primarily now, what the council does is every Wednesday they sit with the lieutenant governor outside the governor's office. And when the governor nominates someone to be a judge of any sort.
What happens if the governor and the lieutenant governor are out of state?
Well,
does anyone actually take over, or is
yes,
it
yes.
passe?
Right now, it's actually not the governor's council anymore. There's a chain that goes down
Speaker
through
of the House?
Secretary of State,
Okay.
and then Senate President, Speaker of the House. So but they took the governor's council out of that.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, governor's council. So how many councilors are there?
So there are 8. The state's divided into 8 pots. I have 1/8 of the state. And then the lieutenant governor. As you know, right now, we don't have a lieutenant governor. So it's just 8 people. As a matter of fact, recently, the governor wanted someone to be a judge. And they could not become a judge because the council deadlocked 4-4. And the lieutenant governor had left the job. So that judge did not get approved.
Oh, I see. Now, so there's currently just 8 people on the council.
Yes.
And, well, when a council meets, when does it meet?
It meets every Wednesday at noontime, right outside the governor's office. It's open to the public. And what happens is if the governor nominates someone to become a judge, if someone wants to become a judge, they go through this. And I know you're an attorney as well as I am, and we might know the process, but a lot of people don't. So the judge, if someone wants to become a judge, they submit their name and a very lengthy application to the Judicial Nomination Commission, which is a 21-person board. After they get vetted out through that process, depending on politics and who's in office, and if you're Republican or Independent or Democrat, yes.
Does that enter? This
Sure
is
it
not
does.
like the probation department, I hope.
I hope not, but you know, there's always politics involved at the State House. So if you're fortunate enough and qualified enough that the governor thinks you'd be a good judge, the governor nominates you for judgeship.
All right.
Then
so
it comes before the council to confirm or deny. That's what the governor council does. That's for judges in the Superior Court, District Court, Probate Court, Appeals Court, Land Court, Supreme Court. Any of the judgeships that are given out have to get approved by the council, as well as clerk magistrates for the District Court, as well as the Appellate Tax Board, the Parole Board, and Justice of the Peace, Notary Publics.
Notaries.
Notaries, yes, that all comes before the governor's council.
I guess I went before the governor's council.
Well,
I'm a notary.
Yeah, you don't have to get interviewed because you weren't going for a judgeship or clerk magistrate position, but your name did get approved by the governor's council for your notary, yes.
Yeah. So every Wednesday, noontime, you gather there, and there might be an application. Is that it before you?
Yeah, so before you actually meet, we have the application. And a good governor's council would have gone through the application very well. When you apply for judge, they want to know cases you've been involved in before. So if I'm chosen to be a governor's council, I can tell you that I would have not only reviewed that application, but been in contact with people that you've been on the other side against as a lawyer. As you know, I've been practicing law for 22 years, and you've been, I think, around there longer than me.
It's just slightly longer.
Longer than me. So you know there's some very good advocates and not so good advocates. But it's important that the Governor's Council has a law background or has a background dealing with the legal system. Because you know...
Do any of your opponents have a law background?
I know that there's one other lawyer, a young lawyer from New Bedford. The other 2 opponents are not lawyers.
I see. And that is important. I'm glad you brought that up because what happens is that sometimes in these positions, people who are not qualified at all get voted in, and that's not good for the governance of the state.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know what the qualifications are. That's why I really encourage people to go to my website, which is
Mention
put that
it,
up.
yeah.
www.joeforgovco.com, joeforgovco.com. You'll see my qualifications, and I really ask that you look at the other people's education, or lack thereof, as well as their experience and training in the area, and I think you'll see that I have far different qualifications than some other people. Like I said, there is a young lawyer from New Bedford. His name is Caleb. I don't know him. Can't say anything about him. The other 2 people are not judges. But what's important is that, and
Well,
you know...
Not lawyers.
Not lawyers, I'm sorry, yes. None of us are judges.
Not
but
yet.
I don't want to be. That's one thing I'm very clear about. I don't want to be a judge. I want to serve the people as a
Let me
governor's
ask you this now. Do you have, is it normal for the applicant to appear before the council?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So by the time the applicant comes
Is
to
it
you...
necessary?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually an open hearing where they'll have advocates.
Public is invited.
Public is invited, and that's where the governor's council gets to question people. Now, in some cases, you might have, let's say, a probate court judge who's been on the bench for any number of years, and the governor wants to promote that person to a superior court or the Supreme Court in Massachusetts. And that's why I think that's where the legal education comes in, because judges have a track record. They write opinions. It's important that you'll be able to read their decisions in the past to make sure that they're in line with what you think is right. They're compassionate, that they help victims, that they follow the rule of law and don't make up their own law.
And they haven't been appealed so many times.
They haven't lost on appeal so many times that they get it right. It's very important. Exactly, yeah. So being, getting appealed and losing are two different things, but you're absolutely right. So that's why it's important to have a legal education, I think, to make sure that these people that are promoted or hired for the first time have a track record. And beyond that, Richard, I think it's important for people to have contributed to society on the outside when they come into the judgeship.
Volunteer organizations,
Absolutely.
Maybe involved with some nonprofit. Now, do they are they allowed to bring witnesses in? Someone?
Yes.
In other
Yes. So,
words,
yeah, they're allowed to bring a couple of people who speak on their behalf. Sometimes it will be another
Character.
judge, character people. It's very important. And when I was a police chief.
So in other words, if someone who's been, we're saying, a juvenile court, and they want to go over to the Superior Court for some reason, they might have one of their colleagues from the juvenile court come in too and testify in regards to the applicant.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now, how long could this go on? Let's say you're there Wednesday, and you're going to have, we'll say, just one person come before the council. How long could this take?
When it's the Supreme Court of Massachusetts, sometimes they go on for a couple of days. When it's a lower court, sometimes they're done in an hour or two. Depends on how many questions the 8 councilors have and the lieutenant governor.
Now, the choice or the recommendation comes from the governor.
Yes.
A lot of influence in that respect. Try to keep on a good side of the governor.
Not for me. I mean, I've put my 30 years in. I've retired. I don't need to impress the governor. I'm not going to be asking for favors, and that's.
And you don't want to be a judge.
And I don't want to be a judge, so no. And we don't even know who the governor's going to be. It could be a Democrat, or Republican, or an independent. We don't know.
Why do you want to? Here you are. You retired from the Somerset Police Department, 30 years, practicing attorney. You a married man?
I'm not married, but I have 3 lovely children.
Okay, and in other words, you've put a lot of time in, a lot of volunteer work, a lot of organizations you participated in. Why now the Governor's Council?
So 14 years ago, when Carol Fiola ran, I met her, I liked her, and I actually helped her for her 10-year period on the Governor's Council. Now that she's a state rep, she's helping me. So
that's good.
I actually went to some of the confirmation hearings with Carol. That's how interested I was when I was helping Carol Fiola do this. And I thought it was fascinating that you'd have input to see who's going to deal with our life, our liberty, our property. Judges make crucial decisions every single day.
Oh, yeah.
And it's super important that we get great people there. The other thing that I did is I went to law school part-time at night when I had my first child, so from 88 to 92. And then I was able to get a very prestigious position. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts hires 35 law clerks throughout the whole country. They hire 35 people for a 1-year clerkship for the Superior Court. I was fortunate enough to get chosen for that.
Well, that's great.
So in that capacity, I worked for probably 25 different Superior Court judges. So in order to go to the Superior Court of Massachusetts, you either, on the criminal side, you've committed a crime that...
Oh, I remember. I used to run into you down at the Superior Court in the law library.
That's right. I was writing decisions for judges. So in order to go to the Superior Court, a criminal defendant has to commit a serious crime, punishable by more than 2.5 years. So they would go to state prison as opposed to the county jail. On the civil side, your case has to be worth more than $25,000, as you know. So for 1 year, I bounced around to different counties, Bristol, Plymouth, Norfolk, Suffolk, and I was assigned to 1 to 4 judges every month. And whatever they had come across their desk, we'd confer every single day. and I'd write decisions. And you got to see great judges and some not so great judges. So that made me more
That must
interested
have
in sitting on the
been
council.
very interesting.
It was extremely interesting, and it was an unbelievable experience, because not only do you get to know the judges, but you get to know the secretaries and the court officers and the clerks, and you really learn how the system really
You get to
works.
sit in the courthouse
Every day I was, in the law library, but a lot of times we're in the judges' chambers talking about cases and how they want it decided, and I'd write draft decisions. And sometimes I'd just sign them, sometimes I'd change them, and sometimes I'd be in the courtroom watching evidentiary hearings and things like that.
So you're well versed in the procedures of the law and the procedures of courtrooms. So, in other words, interviewing someone is going to be a great part of your sitting on the council, because you're going to be able to narrow the scope in the sense that you'll know if this person is qualified or not. It's not going to be a guessing game with you. Is that correct?
That's correct, and you know what? And I'm going to bring some of my police experience as a police chief. I've interviewed probably hundreds of people, whether it was for reserve police officer, for a regular full-time police officer, for promotions to sergeant, lieutenant, captain. So I've interviewed hundreds of people over my life, and I bring that experience with me as well.
Well, that's good. So here we have, we've got the meetings. What does the governance council counselor pay?
$26,000 a year.
All right. And now, you get on the council and you do this type of work, and we've gone into the purpose of it. What is the term of the council?
2 years, just like a senator and representative. It's
2 years.
It's a very short term.
Very short term, yeah.
Yes, yes.
And you have a big district to run into.
It's incredible. It's a lot more than I thought it was going to be at the beginning, to be honest with you. Yeah, 47 communities. I've put an awful lot of miles on my car.
Do you find that historically, once someone becomes gets on a governance council, that they hold that position for long term?
Well, I know that last time the eight seats were opposed, and all 8 of the incumbents got reelected. And Carol Fiola was there for 10 years in a row, but she's a tireless worker. So I'm trying to follow in her footsteps and trying to keep up with her, which you can't really. She's an incredibly hard worker. So generally, the incumbent has somewhat of an advantage because you're there. And sometimes people don't know what the job is all about. So I think it's extremely important that people know, and we appreciate, again, what you're doing to get the word out about what the council does and how important it is to make sure you get the right people there.
Now, okay, so here you are, you're sitting on a council with the other councilors. How can a council be removed for a dereliction of duty for not performing the functions of the council in a correct manner?
That's a great question. I've never heard of it happening. You're elected. There's always a process to remove you. I don't know what the procedure would be, to be honest with you, because I've never heard of it happening to a governance council.
So the governor can't come in a room and say, Joe, you're out because you're doing a lousy job.
No, the governor can't remove us for sure. We're elected by the people, representing the people of the district. So the governor has no control over us.
All right. Okay, so come September, it's pretty much it.
September 9th is it. Whoever wins the primary is going to be the next governance council in January.
In January, you get sworn in at the State House?
Actually, it's one of the cool things about the job. You get to introduce the governor to the Senate and the House. When the governor gets sworn in on January, the council leads the governor.
The full council?
The full council leads the governor down the alley between the House and the Senate.
Well, that sounds really nice.
Yeah, it's one of the fun things you get to do on the job.
And okay, let's get into you have the council, and who presides over the council?
So there's a president that's elected among the body themselves.
Secret ballot, or
I don't think it's not secret. They just publicly vote to elect
someone who has been on
presides
for
over
a
the
long
meeting.
time.
Yes, and there's also an administrator that does the day-to-day administrative work for the council, a full-time employee.
Okay, like a secretary.
Yes.
Someone that prepares the agenda.
Prepares the agenda, would get all the applications together, distribute them to the council members, things like that.
All right. Do you get the applications prior to the Wednesday meeting? Do you?
Yes, absolutely.
A week ahead?
I don't know how far ahead exactly, but that's important because, like I said, I want to be talking to the people on the other side of that applicant over the years. You know, was he or she a good lawyer, a bad lawyer? Were they, although it's adversarial system, were they civil? Do they have the right temperament to be a judge? I think that's extremely important. We've all heard stories as lawyers, and we know a couple of people that no one wanted to go before because they were arrogant. And there's no room for arrogance. You know, I think judges have to respect the people before them, make good decisions, but I'm not one for arrogance on the bench.
Now, you probably have done this in your career. I've done it a couple of times. You get a survey in the mail in regards to judges that you might have appeared before.
Yes.
Now, are those surveys, I haven't got one in a long, long time, so I don't know if they still do it. But my question is basically, are those surveys available to the governor's counselors?
As far as I know, they're not. They're secretive.
Okay.
It was the Mass Bar Association to those, and I have filled them out. And I gave some judges rave remarks and some not so rave.
Yeah.
But as you know, the judges' appointments are for life unless they do something, you know, absolutely wrong. They can be wrong as a matter of law, but I'm talking about if they do something outside the job that, you know, doesn't sit well. But it takes a lot to remove a judge. It's basically a lifetime appointment.
I've got to ask an administrative question of Steve in the booth. The timer was never set. We got 9 minutes left? Okay, thank you. All right, once we get down to 80.
Okay.
Well, okay, so there you are, and yeah, you make that do you confer? In other words, is there any type of like private conference of the counselors prior to someone entering the room?
It's not.
Like a jury, you know,
Yeah.
polling.
No, you know, because it's a public body, it would be illegal for the majority of the board
To meet
and talk outside the purview of the public.
Okay.
So
Now, if someone's sitting in a room and so you get maybe people for the applicant, and do they ask any comments from people against the applicant?
yes,
All right, and those people get to address the counselors.
yes,
So if someone's had a horror,
happens.
you know, case,
yes,
bad decision, they think anyway, may
Yes.
not be a bad decision. You get to listen to that person too.
absolutely.
Now, let's say someone does want to object. Can they have their objection made through a lawyer? So this is my lawyer. He's going to represent me and make the objection for me.
You know, so it's up to the council to allow someone to speak or not. But so a lawyer could make an objection, but it's not going to really hold any water. I think the council should hear from everyone who attends the meeting, then make a decision based on information that's presented, as well as information that they did on their own. I would meet with the candidates personally beforehand, before they come to the meeting.
Oh,
I
is
would
that-
meet with them.
Okay, so all right, so you would meet with them privately somewhere.
Absolutely.
All right, say it's a judge once again in a juvenile court. You might want to go to the juvenile court. How would you do it?
If it's somebody that's already on the bench, I would go to that court. I would speak to the secretaries. I would speak to the court officers. I would speak to people that have been before that judge. If it's somebody new coming onto the bench, I would speak with, again, their adversarial lawyers they've had cases against. They have to identify cases that they've had recently and tried and things like that. And I would speak to their adversaries and find out how they conducted themselves. If they were honest, if they were, you know, I mean, everyone's got an adversarial role, but I want honesty, I want temperament.
Would you check with the Board of Bar Overseers?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Now, that information, well, it's not private because they publish their decisions when they reprimand or
Right.
suspend someone.
Right.
So actually, you could get, in other words, I would imagine if you went to the Board of Bar Overseers and say so-and-so is going to appear before us, that person wants to be a judge, do you have any information about
Oh,
them?
absolutely. Well, first of all, that's on the application.
Oh,
to see
okay.
if you've ever been disciplined or not.
So they have to put that
They
down?
have to put it down, and if they didn't disclose it, that would be
Fraud.
grounds for never to be a judge, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's on the application, and it's as easy as, you know, going on the internet and going to the Board of Bar Overseer website, putting in a name, and seeing if there was a complaint. I don't know if there was a complaint, but if it was sustained or not. Anyone can file a complaint against anyone, but it doesn't mean it's valid.
Yeah.
Then if it's a public reprimand, you'll be able to read what happened.
Now, I imagine something that goes to credibility, something that has, is, on a borderline with fraud, could be a serious reason not to vote for the candidate.
I would think somebody who has committed fraud, has been reprimanded, wouldn't even think about applying for judgeship.
Okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't. They wouldn't
That
get my
would be
vote.
it right there.
They wouldn't get my vote.
Yeah, they wouldn't get to that. You said there's a vetting process.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, we all take an oath as lawyers to do our work honestly, and if you fraudulently, took money from a client or did anything like that, you should not be a judge,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you have any? Let me put it. The question this way, I guess. Do you have any authority in regards to removing a judge?
No.
All right, so that falls with the judicial, I guess.
Right. The Board of Bar Overseers and the Supreme Court deal with removal of. Well, the Board of Bar. They actually have a board like a Board of Bar Overseers, but oversees judicial.
I think it's
right.
judicial.
So people, you read about it once in a while. I subscribe to Lawyers Weekly every week, and you read about, like recently, they reprimanded a clerk magistrate who was just doing some things that he shouldn't have been doing, temperament and things like that. So he got reprimanded, but removal was by the Supreme Court.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else you want to add? We're getting down to the end of the program. We got about 4 minutes left or so. Let me ask you this question. Why should anyone out there vote for former Chief Joesph Ferreira for the Governor's Council?
It's a great question, Richard. I spoke to I spoke to a group today in New Bedford, and they asked me the same thing. They said, why should we vote for you? So I'm going to tell you, and I don't want to, disrespect anyone else. I want to talk about my qualities and education.
You got qualifications. There's
Right.
no doubt about it.
And my qualifications, I think, are far superior than any other candidates. If you look at my education, if you look at my work as a police officer for 30 years, 9 years as a chief of police, you look at my work as a Superior Court law clerk, if you look at my charitable contributions to the area, I've worked with, and I list them on my pamphlet here, but I've been to the Azores bringing justice over there with Judge Raposa and a bunch of other people. I've been the president of Southeastern Mass Police Chiefs, so I was the president of 95 cities and towns. I get to know all the chiefs. And again, we all network together. You get to know the judges. You get to know who's good, who's bad. And you get to see firsthand. I got to see firsthand victims in court, not being cared for compassionately by judges. I want judges that are going to care for victims. I want judges that are going to be hard on bad criminals. I want judges that are not going to be extremely liberal dealing with crime. I have volunteered outside of this. I've sat on executive boards for the Mass Chiefs, the New England Police Chiefs. I've done fundraising for the Jimmy Fund, Cops for Kids with Cancer, Special Olympics, Relay for Life. So I think I'm well-rounded. I have 3 great daughters. They range from 15 to 22 years old. They're active on the campaign. They're the love of my life. So I think I bring a lot to the table that some of the other candidates don't bring. The training, education, life experience that other candidates don't have.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the program. Very interesting. You learned a lot about the Governor's Council from former Chief Joesph Ferreira. And remember, we've got that Friends of Cook Pond dinner dance. That's October 25th. That's going to be held at the Veterans of Foreign Wars on Joesph Street. Doors are going to open about 6 o'clock. We'll have the traditional chicken dinner with the works, all you can eat, cake, coffee, salad, and thereafter there'll be dancing. So it's a good time. A lot of people who listen to the show have been to the function. Tickets are only $15. You need a ticket, come see me or someone on the committee, and if you want to reserve a table, we'll reserve a table for you. So Joe, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it, and
You're
I hope we get the vote out September
Okay.
9th.
Next time I interview you, you'll be a governor's council.
I hope so. Thank you very much.